North Korea fired 23 missiles today, prompting an air raid alert in South Korea. South Korea scrambled jets, which fired 3 weapons in response as its president demands swift action against Pyongyang. The North's launches came hours after it threatened to use nuclear weapons in response to joint military drills being held by the U.S. and South Korea. And we go now to Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China and the Great U.S.-China Tech War. Gordon, great to see you as always. What more can you tell us about this missile launch, and how seriously should we take the threat from North Korea to use nuclear weapons on South Korea and the U.S.?
The most significant aspect of this, Tracy, is that one of those North Korea missiles fell south of the northern limit line, which is the UN-drawn de facto boundary between the South and the North in the sea. And so the United States and South Korea fired a missile north of the northern limit line, the exact distance that the North Koreans fired. This is important to establish deterrence because the North Koreans right now are trying to see how far they can get away with things. The one thing here is that I think the North believes that the international order is breaking down, and therefore they can get away with a lot. And it's up to the Biden administration to convince them that they're wrong. But so far, the Biden policy has been to just basically let North Korea do what the North Koreans want to do. I think that that's a mistake.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, South Korea's president is calling for swift action against North Korea. Your thoughts on that, and what do you think can and should be done?
The United States, I think, can back North Korea off. We have not imposed sanctions on Chinese banks that have been laundering North Korea's money. We cut off the money. We cut off the provocations. And so it's within our power. It's Section 311 of the Patriot Act to declare Chinese banks to be of primary money laundering concern. We can then disconnect them from their corresponding banking relationships in New York. And that means essentially that they can no longer conduct transactions in dollars. That's a death sentence for these Chinese banks. We have not imposed those on the largest Chinese banks for openly violating our laws. We didn't allow Pablo Escobar to run money through New York. We shouldn't allow the Chinese and the North Koreans to do so either.
Gordon, something else I want to touch on are these Chinese police stations that are set up here in the U.S. and also around the world. China claims that they provide services for Chinese nationals living abroad. However, there are reports of harassment and threats. What else can you tell us about these places?
Well, this fixed location in New York on the Lower East Side is a violation of our sovereignty. Yes, they want to provide services to the Chinese, but you have to do that through a consulate or an embassy, and you have to get permission to open them. Now, the Chinese felt so bold to open up this unofficial location because we have allowed, and this goes back to the Obama administration, we have allowed China's consular officials and its Ministry of State security agents to openly operate on our soil. So, of course, the Chinese thought they could get away with this. This is, of course, a problem of Chinese aggressiveness, but this is our country, Tracy. We could have prevented this. We didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Gordon, we have probably about a minute left or so, but I'm curious, what else is on your radar?
The workers fleeing the Zhengzhou plant of Foxconn, which makes about half the world's iPhones. This really shows that the Chinese people have fed up with the COVID controls and that they're openly defying them. This is a story to watch because now the government has imposed a lockdown, a one-week lockdown on the plant. We'll see what the Chinese people do in response.
And we're going to leave it right there. Gordon, great to be with you as always. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you, Tracy.